Dr. Tony Huge here with Guru, Amin, and Derek, who just won the overall in Wisconsin. Looks like we're going to have a medieval battle here because I just won the Grand Prix Los Angeles 2017 overall heavyweight and overall bodybuilding, and he won the heavyweight and overall in Wisconsin. So we both have all kinds of battle materials as trophies. He's got 2 swords, a helmet, and a cup. I've got a sword and a medal. So, Derek, we want to know about this steroid cycle that Amin designed, because Amin's got some very, very unique approaches to steroids that a lot of the audience is going to say, that's freaking crazy. But you know what? Back when people thought the world was flat and someone said the world was round, they thought he was crazy too. I think Amin's a genius personally because I've seen his theories in real life. I've seen him work, and I now have seen them work for you, for your contest. I've seen them work for me. So we're going to talk about Derek's protocol and Guru Amin's protocols kind of in general too. We're going to talk about the dosages. We're going to talk about the fact that we avoid gimmicks. That's what Amin calls it, is people get trapped up in the gimmicks of bodybuilding and steroids and they don't focus on what's important. We're going to talk about constantly switching compounds. We're going to talk about the anti-estrogens. We're going to talk about the places to inject with the site enhancement. We're going to talk about the side effects. So this is a fairly comprehensive video, so stick in there with us, guys. We're obviously going to leave stuff out because we're doing this on the fly, but we will look at the comments below and your questions, and we will do future videos on those topics because Amin's on board as the enhanced athlete guru for the future as well, and Derek's going to come on board as an enhanced athlete and teach us more about the miraculous transformation he made to become a heavyweight bodybuilder champion. So first of all, Amin, talk to me about the low dosages, because when you look on the internet and you look in the forums, the dosages people use on steroids range from low all the way up to extremely high, and it seems like the dosages, Amin, that you usually have people use are pretty on the low side.
I understand something different. There's a direct correlation between the body's metabolism, the ability to retain nitrogen, and the ability to create synthesis of muscle, like to synthesize muscle. Now, you can take as much stuff as you want, but if you can only synthesize at a certain rate. So what I do is I try to make it the safest, lowest dose, and then focus on never having a gap in nutrition so that there's always a positive nitrogen balance. One of the main things is as you know, combining different proteins because they all burn at different speeds. So when one may burn out quicker, one's still left over, and if you're hungry for 5 minutes, you still have a positive nitrogen balance. When it comes to the steroids, it's very similar, okay? The most important thing is that you never develop a tolerance. A tolerance is the reason that you have to increase the dose. Once you increase the dose, you increase the opportunity of getting side effects, okay? Increase your chances of conversion, more estrogen, all of these things. So instead of getting to the point where you have to increase the dose, I constantly switch. Now the common theory has been, testosterone is the base. Testosterone is the base of every cycle. I don't agree with that. I think because we're bodybuilding, we're trying to synthesize muscle. I think an anabolic that does not convert should be the base. So what I tend to do is switch between like Primobolan and EQ, and these are longer, drugs, like 1 month apart. 1 month of this, 1 month of that. You can use Winstrol for about 8 weeks, and I've noticed in general that if you take a substance for about 2 months, you're going to need to take more. You're not going to get the same results. So based on this theory of, of my 2 days Anadrol, 2 days Anavar, it makes it so that your Anadrol continues to work. You don't have to increase the dose. You don't get lethargic. You don't hold the water. You don't get the gyno. You don't get the negative side effects from the Anadrol, because by the 3rd day you stop taking it, all those negative side effects diminish, and the positive effects of the Anavar kick in to keep your nitrogen balance positive.
So we did a video called The Ultimate Steroid Cycle. Guys, watch that. Right. If you audience, watch that if you haven't seen that already. But that's an example of an amine approach to a steroid cycle where the dosages are lower, they're constantly rotating. But are you also, Amin, are you changing the compounds not just based on adapting to them or preventing side effects, but also based on the person's physique and what their physique. Can you tell by looking at someone's physique what steroid will benefit them most, or is it also, do you experiment with the different compounds with someone and see how they react and then adjust it accordingly?
It's a little bit of both, but more of the latter. With Derek, we did experiment, and with all my clients, I do experiment. At first, I find out what they tell me works best. It's the programs are all about feedback. It's constant feedback. You don't have to wait a week. So I would find out how something worked if you took it on Monday by Wednesday, and then based on that, we would determine whether we would continue to take it or not, or whether it wasn't worth the option. Now, the thing is, lately it seems like steroid cycles are fit as many different drugs as you can in one cycle. The more, it seems like that's the best cycle is who can fit 12 drugs in a cycle with the most. And that's actually going kind of the opposite direction. The direction we should be going is what we should take so that we feel good and look good all the time. And believe it or not, when you compare the dosages of my clients to the dosages of other athletes, you'll notice that my clients get better results.
Derek, before we get to the site enhancement, anti-estrogens, and where we're injecting all that, I want to know how you felt during this, because we're constantly switching compounds. Did you get any side effects, or did you feel anything negative from the approach of switching compounds?
No, I think actually the switching is what negates the side effects. I actually felt really, really good. And traditionally, post-show, I'm feeling pretty run down, and I feel really good today. And it's pretty much how I felt for most of prep. You're always going to have, those tough days where the diet's just kicking your ass. But overall, I felt really good. And my results just were so fast and so dramatic. I never would have expected it.
Let's go through the main side effects of steroids and see if you experienced them. Did you experience any hair loss?
Nope.
Okay, acne. Was there a certain steroid that caused acne outbreak?
We increased tests from 300 to 400 for a period of 2 weeks. I got 3 pimple heads, and we dropped it back down. So,
did you drop it back down just because you got 3 pimples?
Yeah. I'm kind of prone to getting acne, so it was not anything I wanted to worry about, and I wanted to jump on it because your skin's kind of important on stage.
Isn't that interesting? The difference in the dosage between 300 milligrams of testosterone and 400 milligrams was the difference between having no side effects and starting to experience side effects. That difference.
And just to add to that, it seems like the norm is go if you have side effects, and then your coach usually, and I can't speak for all gurus, but a lot of coaches give you your entire 12-week cycle up front. And how can they predict a month in what side effects you're going to have? They can't. So it's a little bit too cookie cutterish, and it's not for the approach I take. A little bit more closer approach with my clients. I speak to them several times a week. Sometimes, whatever it takes, make sure that they feel and look good.
Okay, let's talk about site enhancement. Did we do any synthol or any site injections? Did we inject any steroids into a specific muscle that we're trying to grow because we think that steroids have a bigger impact on the muscle that they are injected in than the rest of the body?
Nope, I didn't mess around with any kind of site enhancement oil, and I probably never will, to be honest. It's just not something I personally like that look. And as far as injecting, I just rotated between my delts, my lats, and my glutes.
Your lats. Tell me about injecting your lats. I've never done that. It sounds terrible.
I just prop my elbow up against the door, and I just go right in there. Either that, or I lay down on the couch and have my girlfriend do it.
What?
So just don't do it if you don't have a lot of muscle, because that's actually like in acupuncture. That's the biggest thing that you can puncture a lung. I just have pretty big lats. I've had an acupuncturist put a 4-inch needle into my lats, so I'm safe.
Wow. And are we injecting in those locations because it's just the most comfortable, or because we hope to grow those areas?
I guess you could say a little bit in the lats, but it wasn't really the point. It's just the places I didn't experience any kind of discomfort after an injection. And that's my biggest thing. If I have discomfort and it's going to affect the way I move, it affects the way I train, then that's not where I want to put a needle, put some oil into me.
Instead, Tony, what we did was we changed the workout so that we would do some isolation movements before compound movements so that you have a better mind-body connection. And instead of having to compensate with a site injection, we actually built the muscle. We had enough time to, even out his flaws.
You know what's funny?
But the workouts are totally different.
When I ask Amin about steroids, oftentimes the conversation leads to diet and training. And this just goes to show that here's someone who's extremely experienced, who's coached a lot of pro-level bodybuilders in the underground, and he prioritizes training and nutrition over steroids. But obviously steroids are necessary to the sport. They're just a little bit overemphasized these days. I understand that. I understand people look at me and think that I'm the shortcut master, and I am, because I'm not doing the training and diet right. I do use the steroids to make up for it, but I still use lower dosages. I do cycle them often. I don't let them. I don't let my body get used to them, and I do stick to things that give me no side effects. So in those ways, I do follow Amin's protocol just in general on a basis.
More towards since we've been speaking, not prior to when we were talking, right?
Yeah. So after you taught me about switching compounds more often, then I took it upon myself to really, instead of just doing like, okay, here's my 6-week cycle, I will now do, okay, here's what I'm going to do next week, and I'll see how I feel, and I might change it at that time. And I don't know why everybody got into the mindset that you have to start a cycle and stick with the whole way. Although a lot of people do need to do something and stick with it because they'll change too often for no reason and for the wrong reasons.
Sure.
So I can understand why most people should start out with a cycle that's pre-planned and designed, and then, or probably everybody should, but then adapt it as they go along. But the problem is they don't know, they don't have the knowledge on why or when to change or adapt it.
It's what you choose to use as your base. Like if you use androgens as your base, then you're going to have side effects. But if you use anabolics that don't have much side effects as your base, and that's consistency, then you're going to have a positive nitrogen balance without retaining a lot of water. So that's where the difference is. But can I ask you guys a couple questions? Both of you guys have worked with before. What's the main difference that I provided for you? Let's say Tony first and then Derek, because I've worked with Tony before. Just wanted to know what your opinion is.
Well, if we're talking about, since we're to this side, this is about steroid cycles, Amin style. I'd say the main thing is really adapting the protocol to my current condition. So you call it the state of the body. So, Amin, you'll look at my body and you'll say, okay, you're holding water. So we need to change the compounds because we don't need to be holding. There's no reason to ever be really holding water. We're trying to build a certain condition and maintain. We're not trying to like blow up like a balloon and then cut down to a little raisin. We're trying to grow into a show. We're always trying to improve. So switching the compounds, and then also the lower dosage of the compounds, also the microdosing. So even if something has a longer half-life, the fact that we're taking it more frequently is better. And then non-aromatizing compounds. That way we don't have to play with the estrogen game so much, except for the ment, of course. With the ment, we have to play the estrogen game. And then with the growth hormone, I mean, since growth hormone is indispensable in these type of steroid cycles too. You are the master of growth hormone, Amin. And Trevor's with me. Coach Trevor travels with him all the time. And so what I learned from Trevor, a lot of that stemmed from your discoveries 20 years ago that still most people didn't even uncover because your discoveries, as you desired, stayed in the underground. They stayed hush-hush. You wanted everything to be a secret, and they were. And it was only a few people out there like Coach Trevor that discovered it and then turned it into their own systems of today. But pretty much most of what Trevor still, his theories, the basis for his theories behind cycles, still stems from your initial discoveries 20 years ago.
There are probably 3 different diets that he followed in a week. 3 different diets, not just one diet for a week, but one diet on one day, one diet on another, and one diet on a low-carb day, one diet on his rest day. Derek, did you use T3?
No.
Did you use clenbuterol?
Nope.
No. Did you use DMP?
Nope.
Did you use any other sort of fat burning?
E and Yohimbi, and that was it.
How long was your total diet? From when I said I didn't know if you were going to make it, and this is
So,
Truth, Tony. I actually told him not to compete. I thought he wasn't going to make it in time. He proved me wrong.
yeah, so we basically had that talk 8 weeks out, and then I started just inside that 7.5 weeks.
No fat burners. So that's the difference of paying attention to the diet and changing it on time versus relying on fat burners to burn fat. What we did was we actually grew and put on muscle all the way up to the show. And that muscle burned fat. And that muscle burns more fat than fat burning. Because when you use fat burners, you're not putting on muscle. It's almost impossible.
Let's talk about the anti-estrogens now, so or any other ancillaries. So, did you use an exemestane, a Romacin, a Arimidex, or an Anastrozole?
Yeah, Romacin. I took it on the evening of each time I took my test shot, and then when we were 2 weeks out, I took it every other day, 25 milligrams.
25 milligrams every way day starting 2 weeks out. Okay, so you never used letrozole then?
No.
If you're not taking substances that convert, and once you notice a couple pimples, just a couple, okay, then you know that something's not happening right. And because you know that, then you have to make the adjustment right away. There's no point in going further in the wrong direction. We knew at 400 milligrams he had a few pimples. So at 500, he's going to have more. It's deductive reasoning. We know that. So instead of going the wrong direction, we put stuff in there that didn't aromatize.
Were any steroids off limits? I mean, I know you said before we started the video you used a low dosage of Tren. Obviously, that's a really hardcore one. Anadrol and Halotestin, those are probably the three most hardcore that make sense, because to me things like check drops don't really make sense. So or methyl test, things like that don't make sense. But
right.
So these hardcore compounds, are there any specific compounds that are off limits that are general bodybuilding drugs that you think are just useless in cycles? I mean,
in my opinion, no. I think I've gotten my hands enough to know people at NIH, National Institute of Health, Bethesda Naval Hospital. I've gotten my hands on real research. I found out that taking 50 milligrams of Anadrol for 21 days in a row, you lose at least 10% receptor affinity. That means it doesn't work that well every day for 3 weeks in a row. So why not manipulate it and make it work to your advantage? I think Anadrol is a fantastic drug if you take it more than 2 weeks in a row every day. And that's why I came up with, taking the harsher steroids, Halotestin towards the very end, or Anadrol sparingly throughout the program. So you get the benefits, but the side effects don't start to weigh up.
Okay, so part of your theory is you do use liver toxic oral steroids, but only a few days a week, until we get closer to the bodybuilding show. And
if it was Anadrol, Anabar, you do Anabar 4 days a week one time. You do Anadrol 4 days a week one time. But that 1 day a week you take off all orals, off all shots, off all everything, and that is a really way of cleansing out the body every week, so you stay fresh.
So Derek, you took 1 day per week, no steroids. Were you afraid you were going to lose muscle that 1 day per week?
Nah, usually I was pretty burnt out by the end of the week, so I kind of put myself in a coma and slept like 12 hours that day. So I wasn't too worried about losing muscle if I'm resting.
I had to get this guy to take rest days. I had to tell him, you need to take off tomorrow, because he's so hardcore that he would train through. He actually was sick before the competition, very bad. And that was my concern. I didn't know if he was going to be able to win, and I didn't want him to get sicker. So remember we talked about steroids and being sick? He's a perfect example of that. We did tell him we cut off everything. What did we do when you were sick?
Yeah, well, I had the flu that turned into pneumonia, and so I was out obviously for a little bit. And even the first part of prep, I was obviously still dragging a little bit because pneumonia hangs around a little bit. But yeah, it was rest up, don't take anything, sleep as much as you can, go to work, come home, go back to bed.
I only had you on Primo and test, right?
We hadn't even started Primo. We just on 300 test.
Yeah, so there you go.
And we've done other videos on Primo, but just because the dosage of Primo is a real hot topic, tell me what you think an effective dosage of Primo is.
I think it depends on the maker. I hate to say this, but I want people to take to 1,000. But I found that the pharma grade, it doesn't seem to be any more effective over 600. I find that it all depends on what else is in combination. Remember, if you have 10 different drugs, you can't take a lot of all 10 different of them because you can still only be so, once you're positive nitrogen balance, that's it. There's no more than that. Anything else is excess. Okay, so if you're only taking primobolan, well, then you could probably take 800 milligrams a week, primobolan test. But once you add in the Anavar or the Tren and the Masteron and all those other things, then you have to all of the drugs so that in synergism they work together in a proper way instead of one overdoing the other.
There's only so many receptors, right? I mean, once you get over
That's
a
correct.
certain amount of total androgens, the androgens that have a higher affinity are just going to kick off the androgen receptor, the androgens that have a lower affinity, and then you're going to have all these lower affinity androgens like testosterone and things like that are just floating around causing side effects instead of actually attaching to the androgen receptors.
Which is why I only had him on 300, because he didn't need any more than that when he was taking Trenbolone and Masteron and Anavar and Turinabol. Yes, there was several different compounds that we used, but we didn't use a lot of any of them. Anavar, the most we used was 60 towards the end. It was 40 for the most part, right?
Yeah, it was 40. We only used 60 for a week.
For a week, okay. Turinabol was 40, and we only used 50 for like a week, right?
No, we never went past 40.
We never went past 40.
Okay, isn't one of the problems with a cycle like this is that you don't know what's working and what's not because you're not taking it for long enough to really understand what's doing what?
I don't think it really matters. I think it's a synergistic effect. I don't think anybody really knows specifically what's working or what's not unless you're only taking one compound. And when we're talking about getting ready for a show, we're using multiple different drugs because we want the look, the cosmetic look of all the different drugs. So in that aspect, you can see the difference. Like you can see the cosmetic look of Winstrol when you're very lean versus when it's not in you. So we added a little bit for the cosmetic look, but we don't rely specifically on any one of the compounds.
All right, now we could go into growth hormone for hours, so I just want to do a really quick overview on how growth hormone fits into a cycle like this. And again, we did do the ultimate steroid cycle before, which is one example of like a steroid cycle that Guru Amin designed that some of our athletes used. But what's the growth hormone general dosages and frequency, and is it an everyday or take a few days off thing, just in general before you actually adapt it to the person?
I actually like to take growth about 5 days a week, and I like to take the MK twice a week.
What time of day?
I took it morning on the days I didn't train.
And morning on the days you didn't train?
Morning and night on the days I didn't train.
Okay, got it.
So I took it with fasted cardio and then before bed.
Okay. And the dosage on the 5 days that we are taking growth hormone,
2.5 IUs is what I did.
How many shots per day?
A half an IU, broken up to 5 shots.
5 shots, half an IU.
What do you mean half an IU?
Half an IU.
Five.
0.5.
Oh, I see. One bottle per day.
No, you don't. Real drug.
2.5 IUs per day. A half an IU 5 times a day.
Oh, okay.
That's
so
very.
We're talking like prescription grade growth hormone, not cheap stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So that goes
Oh,
to
he had
how
more-
effective real pharmaceutical growth
Yeah.
hormone can be.
And for the sake of argument, the reason why I didn't have him do more than that is because he didn't need it, and he's young, and it's his first. This is actually his first real cycle. So we didn't need to do anything that extreme. Now, in the event that somebody's competing for the nationals or they go a little bit higher, go 2 times that. So it'd be 1 IU 5 times a day. So you're going from 2.5 to 5. That's the range.
Okay, just personal advice for me. So I had so many bunk growth hormone sources. Unbelievable how much. The majority, 9 out of 10 growth hormone sources that I've tested have been seriously underdosed, and many of them fake. And so I think probably 90% of the people out there using growth hormone are probably not using the potency they think. I think I finally found a source that is totally legit, and I just finally got it yesterday. And assuming it is 10 units per vial, and I've got enough of it to last me a while, and I'm traveling. I'm going to Costa Rica next week. I'm in Los Angeles right now. From Costa Rica, I might go to Colombia, Brazil. I don't know. I just put my finger on the map. And I am able to train hard 5 days a week.
Travel size.
I'm able to travel 5 days or work out 5 days a week, and my diet is getting much better now that girl Sky is cooking most of my meals, and we get place for the kitchen. The growth hormone is kind of inconvenient to do 5 times a day. Well, actually, completely inconvenient. I'm traveling in hot climates. I'm walking around all day. Can I hit like 5 units twice a day? 5 units pre-workout, 5 units before bed? How about that?
You can, but to be in all honesty, the research that I've seen shows that anything over a certain amount really doesn't do anything for protein synthesis or muscle building. It starts to make your skin thicker. It starts to work on organs and stuff like that. So I recommend against it. What I do recommend is in a situation like you're in, if you're doing not for a contest, but if you're doing this to keep your size up and grow while you're traveling, I wouldn't do more than 2 IUs at a time. Okay, and I would space that out every 8 hours.
Okay, or basically 2 units as frequently as I can conveniently do it.
That would be the goal. What I have Derek do was take it with every meal. I think that works really well.
Okay, and if I had to prioritize a couple times a day to take it, you think pre-workout and before bed would be the good times to prioritize it?
First thing in the morning, pre-workout, and before bed, yeah. First thing in the morning is essential for guys like us because it gives you energy and it starts the metabolism off burning fat. It starts you off with protein synthesis. It's essential.
Okay, and insulin. I know from the previous video we did with Derek. Derek didn't use insulin, but usually insulin and growth hormone go hand in hand. But then again, he was doing such a low dosage of growth hormone.
We did do insulin, but we didn't do it carving up. We did do it a little bit, dieting down, and we did it post-workout, and sometimes we did it in the morning too.
Oh, I see. When he didn't do insulin,
no, we didn't do it in the morning with you. That's right. We only did it post-workout. I think what's probably better for you to do is figure out whether you need to eat carbs with every meal. And if you do, then you have to determine which insulin's better, the regular or the Humalog. The Humalog will work for each meal. The regular will work for about 2 meals. If you're going to be traveling and being on the road like that, not being able to take frequent injections, then I would probably stick with just insulin first thing in the morning with your carb meal. And then I would do it post-workout with your post-workout meal. And then the meal after that, you're eating carbs also.
Why do you like insulin in the morning? So insulin and growth hormone and a carbohydrate meal in the morning.
I think that it starts off the body creating IGF-1. Like you said, insulin works totally different when you take real growth hormone versus the way it does if you're not on growth hormone. So by itself, it makes you fat, but when you take it with growth hormone, it starts to create IGF-1, and it also burns fat. So I think that it's a great way to ensure that whatever you were training the day prior is fully recovered before you work out again.
Okay, and so I'm gonna hit 2 units of growth in the morning with 2 units of insulin. That's?
I remember after DNP, you were extremely sensitive. You couldn't even do 1 unit. So we have to start with 1 to make sure that you don't go hypo, because 1 can be just as effective for you as 4 is for someone else. There's no set number. You know what I mean? It all depends on your body's, how your body handles it. You couldn't. 2 made you hypo before, so let's start with 1, and if 1 works well, then we can increase it to 2.
Okay. To wrap this up, the length of a cycle that you would usually have someone do. I mean, we did the ultimate steroid cycle video, and one of the benefits of the ultimate steroid cycle is someone could run it for 6 months, a year, whatever, because they're not going to desensitize, although there's some benefits to giving the body a break or at least dropping down to a bridging with just testosterone, just giving the body a break in general. But assuming that someone wants to just build insane amounts of muscle over a long period of time and make insane progress in a year, is there any reason to stop this cycle before a year if the blood work isn't terrible?
No.
Okay, so the cycle length could be whatever anybody wants.
Unless you develop which if you're taking for people or recommend it to people, you're not going to develop a ton. In that case, switch between your base on EQ and Primo, keep the levels about 600. You really wouldn't need to go higher than that, and then you would rotate in and out the other androgens. Whether you'd go a month taking oral Turinabol and Anavar, and then switch that to Trenbolone and Masteron, whatever.
Okay, so let's just pick like the top 6 or 7 steroids that come to mind as ones you would incorporate on a cycle you design. So I'm just going to name the ones you've already named, and you tell me if I missed any of the main ones. And we're not talking pre-show. This is not pre-show, so I don't think we need Winstrol or halotestin. So we use testosterone, Primo, equipoise, trenbolone, masterone, anadrol. What else?
Anavar.
Anavar. Okay. How about Dianabol?
I'm not big on Dianabol. Some people like it pre-workout. I like Dianabol better than Dianabol. But Dianabol is my Dianabol. It's a drier Dianabol for me. But if you want more water retention and if you like the pump from Dianabol better, then you would take that. You could use that and replace the Dianabol.
Okay.
Also, not that there's much of a difference between pre-contest and off-season other than cardio and rotating the carbs. As far as the gear goes, the goal is to put on lean muscle. So the only difference would be the toxic drug of the halotestin, which you really don't need in the off-season. But I still think Winstrol can be used sparingly in the off-season to put on lean muscle, just like Anavar, as long as it doesn't dry your joints out too much. One of the drugs we didn't mention were the Nandrolones, like the NPP or the DECA. And as far as DECA goes, with most people, they tend to retain a lot of water, especially because it has a very, very long half-life. So that's a progesterone issue also. That's one of the issues. NPP is not quite like that. So if you were to cycle, for example, testosterone as your testosterone propionate, okay, then you can do NPP and propionate every other day. And that would be a good way to, you could also do the NPP in replace of Primo or EQ. So in the off season, you have 3 different bases that you could use. I don't really consider NPP like a anabolic like I do EQ or Anavar or Primo. However, it does work sufficiently enough that you can combine it and use it for a month and get great results. The key is, again, in a month, when you take a substance, not to double the dose, not to increase the dose, but to switch it to another drug that's comparable and to do a dose that is effective. You don't need to start with a lower dose, a dose that's ineffective, and then gradually build up to an effective dose and then go beyond the effective range. There's an effective range with every drug. You need to take that range. That's it. No more, no less. Just take the range that's effective. Now, how frequently you take it all depends on the tolerance you develop.
Something we didn't talk about is SARMs, and you were fairly new to SARMs, but now you're using them yourself, and you also have some athletes you're coaching that are using SARMs, and I know you're a big fan of SARMs now, and we're figuring out how to build cycles that are hybrids between steroids and SARMs in addition to just SARMs-only cycles. We're going to do videos on that in the future. This was just Amin's kind of steroid cycle theory that he's developed he developed a long time ago, but it's been finely tuned over the last 20 years. And then in the future, you're going to hear Amin talking about how he's incorporating SARMs into programs like this. In the future, we're also going to be doing more videos with Derek on his progress, becoming a professional Olympia stage bodybuilder. And we're going to show our swords one more time.
Hey, Derek's girlfriend is taking SARMs right now.
Wow.
All right, we'll do a video with Derek's girlfriend sometime on SARMs as well, too.
She's going to be competing also in physique division. She looks incredible. She goes by the name Dynamite. She's awesome. Look at her on Instagram.
And guys, remember, this is a 30-minute video audience, and we cover as much as we can. I'm trying to think about what questions you guys would have. Obviously, we can't cover everything, and obviously some of it's susceptible to misinterpretation because we can only cover so much in 30 minutes. So we hope you don't misinterpret some of the information, and we get to clear that up for you in future videos so you can understand. Someone like Amin's mind would take thousands of hours to fully exploit on video, so we're never going to be able to give you every detail, but I try to give you as much as you can, as much as your attention span can hold, assuming you've got some foundational level of understanding of some of these compounds. Don't do anything without doctor supervision and direction. This is not medical advice. This is entertainment. Purpose is only be swell and swole, my friends of freedom, pioneers of human evolution.